Thank you. Hello, everybody. Good to have you here. Lovely to see some familiar names, some new names. And we're very excited today for the session where we're going to celebrate the journeys of the winners of the last cohort of the Catalytic grants. It's an experience sharing session. And we're very pleased to invite you today. Without any further ado, I think I will invite Professor Salimul Haq to give the opening remarks. He's busy and he has to head somewhere. So, Professor Haq, over to you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Shuchi. And hello to everybody. Thank you for joining us here for this session to tell your stories. I'm going to just start by describing how we came to develop this idea for the catalytic grants. It actually came out of the first Global Gabeshana Online conference that we did 2 years ago, where we got a lot of participants with a lot of interesting ideas that they wanted to do. And one of the problems in terms of accessing finance is that donors are not very good at giving small amounts of money to lots and lots of different local people. They prefer to give money in big pots to some big players. And that is one of the reasons why small scale, bottom up local groups find it difficult to get finance. So we offered to act as a go-between. We managed to get some grant funding from a donor and offer small grants in the region of a few $1,000s to groups that are doing something and they wanted to do more, and they pitched to us. So we had a process of applications that came in. We had a process of selecting the applications and voting on them, and we selected a set of small grants for one round last year, and they presented their work at last year's conference. And you are the second batch of grantees that are receiving these small grants, and we are extremely eager to listen to what you've done with the grants. And we hope to have another round of grantees coming out of this conference where we will be able to give these small grants again. One of the learnings that we have had ourselves, because we're not a grant making organization, we had to learn grant making, is we went up a steep learning curve in terms of receiving money and then giving small grants to people. It's not easy. It is quite difficult. And in fact, the smaller the grant, the bigger the overhead involved in sending it to somebody. So to send you $1,000, almost the bank charges almost cost $100 themselves. So you lose a lot of money in the transit. But we're learning and we're getting better at it. And some countries are easier than other countries to send money to. That also we're learning as well, which ones are more difficult. But nevertheless, we've gone up a learning curve, and we're very pleased that you have been able to get grants, and we look forward to hearing your stories as to what you've done with them, and hope to continue to keep the relationship going with you beyond the grant period. So over to you, Shruti.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Salim. This was a lovely introduction and great, some amazing learning that comes out of these sessions every time. And these grant making experiences themselves are definitely a steep learning curve, as you pointed out. So it has indeed been a pleasure, as we've also been involved in this exercise from GRP. And it's been great pleasure at our end to be able to support this process. All right, thank you. And with that, I think we'll move into the next phase of this session. And Salim, thank you so much for joining us despite your busy schedule. And we're sorry to see you go, but hopefully you'll catch the recordings. Great. All right. I am not sure if I introduced myself in the beginning. So I will do that now. I'm Shuchi. You might have seen me on quite a few sessions. If you haven't, hi again from me. And I am the Resilience Knowledge Coalition lead at the Global Resilience Partnership. GRP, along with CJRF and ACAD, have been working very closely on these catalytic grants, and that's been this project, actually, this process of having grant makers and grantees together in this session has been very close to our hearts, and we're very pleased to be sharing learnings and lessons from our grantees. With that, I want to invite each of our grantees to share their learnings today. And so I start with the team Mountains of Youth. They call themselves Mountains of Youth. Rubina Adhikari is representing the team. And Rubina, over to you. Please describe what you've done until now, what your process of catalytic grants and of winning this grant right from the application time to right now, what your process has been and what you've picked up, and what have your activities been. So please share a little bit. Give us a flavor of what you're doing, basically.
Yes, thank you very much, Suchi, for the invitation. Good day, everyone. I'm Rubina Adhikari, and I'm proud to be here as part of the Catalytic Grant Project with my colleagues Warafta Imoshet from Bangladesh and Siring Ramo from Bhutan. Our project aimed to facilitate transboundary knowledge exchange between Nepal and Bhutan, two countries that are predominantly mountainous region and have various similarities. Our focus was on climate education and documenting local related adaptation practices in both of the countries. So we provided climate educations to students from grade 5 to 10, covering the basics of climate change and familiarizing them with climate policies such as LAPA and NAPA, which stands for Local Adaptation Plan of Actions and National Adaptation Program of Action. During our project, we observed some changing patterns in both the countries, such as crop plantation shifting with the onset of rainfall, increased landslides, and less forest timber and fuel wood. However, we also observed some contradictory trends, such as enormous snowfall in the Merak region of Bhutan, while there was very little snowfall seen last year, and contradictory in Siklesh region, it was a more amount of snow. To adapt to these changing climate patterns, we also documented several practices being implemented in both the countries, such as utilizing biogas in place of firewood, improved dung and urine management, converting farmlands to grow cash crops like vegetables, fruits, and broom grasses, transforming noxious weeds into organic manure, and to making biobriquettes from invasive species as their raw materials. We also noted out that out-migration, both temporary and permanent, to cities and even abroad in search of work, as well as transhuman sheep herding practices was mostly seen. So in addition to this, we also observed several community-based practices that were being implemented, such as effective management and inclusive community forestry, where women played equal roles as they spent ample amount of time in the forest. We also noted the investment of earning from the community forest in forest management, poverty alleviation, and community development activities, as well as joint collaboration for tourism homestays. Our team additionally also conducted a comparative analysis of the environmental policies of Nepal and Bhutan. While both countries have an Environmental Protection Act, we came to know that they do not have specific climate change related acts. However, Bhutan has some positive provisions under its Environmental Protection Act that Nepal could potentially adopt. For instance, we saw that Bhutan has maintained the integrity of its environment by limiting the number of visitors entering the country and prohibiting mountaineer above 6,000 meters due to their religious beliefs. Nepal could strive to set a balance between tourism and environmental protection by making laws related to the polluter pays principle and strict cleanliness and littering laws during expeditions. Unlike Bhutan consultations, Nepal's constitution does not state a specific percentage of forest cover, which is 60% for Bhutan, but we don't have a specific number set yet. However, Nepal has set an exemplary model with this community forestry, involving people in protecting forest and including minority and indigenous groups in community framework. While hard and soft laws have set the model to increase public participation, The question of how inclusive they are with the demands and needs of vulnerable groups, it remains still. Our initiative has helped communities become more confident in the adaptation practices and has raised awareness about practices happening in neighboring countries. Through climate change education, students have become more empowered and eager to serve for their environment. The documentation process will help to preserve traditional knowledge and practices that have proved effective in adapting to climate change, while also promoting the adoption of new practices that may be better suited to the changing climate. This can help to build a generation of informed and active citizens who are committed to environmental sustainability. The comparative analysis that we did, which was very interesting, and we also learned so many things in the process, helped to identify gaps and potential opportunities for improvement in both countries' policies. By learning from each other's experience, countries can develop more effective policies that take into account the unique challenges and opportunities presented by their specific context. As a team, now our next target is we aim to reach out to the entire Hindu Kush Himalaya region, which consists of 8 countries, and place to protect the pulse of our planet and be the voices for the vulnerable people. We have discussed our findings with the respective authorities and have mobilized as many young people as we can in the process. We have already started talking about the youth and climate policies and presenting our points to the leaders. By involving local communities in the process of identifying and implementing adaptation practices, and by working with authorities to promote supportive policies and practices, the project is contributing to a more inclusive and participatory approach to adaptation. We hope to continue our effort in this sector and will be forever grateful to ICAT for the support. Special thank you to Adiba for being constant support throughout this journey. And with this, I'd like to end my remark. But I hope that this is not the end, but beginning to this initiative and many more in the future. Thank you very much.
Indeed, thanks, Rubina. And yes, it would be amiss to actually not talk about Adiba's contributions in this process, and we will hear from her later today. I actually am very keen to hear more about your work. And before we move on to the next person, I'll probably ask you one question, and then we can take a few questions together. I'll pepper questions between teams. Rubina, I'm curious. You talked about climate literacy, and I'm curious to hear more if you think there are very direct links between establishing climate justice, which is essentially involvement of youth, fostering leadership among indigenous communities, the most vulnerable, as you pointed out, or marginalized groups that exist within both these countries. Do you think there is a direct link between ensuring climate literacy spreads and climate education spreads in order to include these groups? And do you have, can you share examples, very clear examples from your work on this?
Yes, I do believe that climate literacy is very much important in order to make them enabled in this process, especially if you're talking about local adaptation, because they have been doing this for many years, but first of all, they don't know why they are doing it, and they don't have backup. They don't have any backup of scientific knowledge. So when we told them that, okay, so we saw that they are now moving into transhuman practices of sleep herding. So when we told them that, okay, this is very good adaptation practices and you should improve this through these many methods, so actually it boosted their confidence and they felt like, okay, at least we are doing in the right direction and this is normal. And that example, that journey also made them feel inclusive, that they are not alone in this journey. So I definitely believe that this is very important, and that's why we also took a step ahead and then we educated youths so that they also become aware of local adaptation and that the practices do not become obsolete at all.
Thank you. That's lovely to hear and very, very encouraging, I must say, because we often hear stories of gloom and doom and change and migration and conflict, but not so much around preservation of these practices. So thank you for sharing that, Rubina. With that, I'm conscious of time, and so I'm trying to keep our conversations moving. So with that, I will move to Team Korabam. And I invite Noshin to share their poster, and Jiaul Haq to describe their work a little bit and talk through the poster, please.
Uh, Hello, thank you.
Hi.
Hello, thank you for giving me the opportunity. My name is Jiaul Haq and I'm from Team Korabam from Bangladesh. Uh, you can already see our one-pager poster, so you can have a brief knowledge about our organization. So we have three members in our group, Mr. Khalid Redwan Chaudhuri, Ms. Farah Nazrin, and myself. And I'm really excited to represent Korabam in Gaveshona Global Conference 3, and my thankful gratitude to ICAT, GRP, and CJRF for organizing such a beautiful platform for us. So let's have a brief overview about our project. As we all know, Bangladesh is one of the most climate vulnerable country in the world due to the rising sea level, and currently only 15% area of Bangladesh is covered with forest. Although this is an official statement, but in reality, it is less than 10%, which is far below the standard of 25%. Our forests are under several threats from illegal logging, hunting, and unsustainable development activities. The wildlife in Bangladesh is declining at an alarming rate, destroying our ecosystem. If the current situation continues, Bangladesh will face a great challenge due to the climate change and biodiversity loss, which will ultimately impact the quality of our life, food security, and our very existence. So in order to meet the sustainable development goals specified by the UN, several projects have been undertaken at both government and non-government levels in Bangladesh. At the same time, environmental issues are getting more and more media coverage nowadays. As a result, we have been experiencing some positive impacts of various initiatives, but these are not enough as ideally expected. In this context, Korabam comes up with some solution to promote sustainable development projects, which involves the inclusion of local communities along with the university academics, researchers, policymakers, and NGOs. The word Korabam means village community forest in traditional Mro language. Mro communities are one of the indigenous tribal community living in the remote Chittagong Hill tracts of Bangladesh. The aim of our project is to develop a sustainable Mro community in remote hilly areas of Bandarban district in Bangladesh. Our objective for these projects were to develop a community forest, which is locally called Parabon, implement a mixed fruit plantation in order to improve traditional slash and burning cultivation, which is locally called Zoom cultivation, to develop a community school hostel to support more children education, and a rainwater harvesting system for water storage during the dry seasons. So our project is directly connected with the involvement of the local communities. We have Mr. Solomon Bro, a local community representative who is supervising the overall project activities in Alikadom district of Bandarban. In the lower part of the hill, we have developed our mixed fruit plantation project, engaging local Mro communities to develop this plantation, which significantly reducing the dependency of the community on Zoom cultivation and wildlife hunting to a sustainable level. Also, education is a primary challenge in remote areas, and we have collaborated with Pamum Thakla, a self-sustainable, eco-friendly residential school in remote hilly areas of Lama. This school is completely made of bamboo, timber, and locally available materials. Pamum Thakla means children of wildflowers in local language, and currently serving 4 tribal villages with 40 families and 110 children, with total of 450 Mro population. Water scarcity is a major issue in hilly areas, especially in the dry seasons. We are working to develop a rainwater harvesting system using gravitational flow model, which is being practiced in the CST to store water in the dry season. Using this system, seepage water coming from the forest to the stream is taken to the community's dwelling houses through erecting a dam. The water is stored in the dam, creating a force to go either downstream or even upstream. Again, we are working with the traditional knowledge and locally led adaptation. So our future plan is to enhance our project knowledge and create more awareness among the communities. Although we do have lots of challenges, but gradually those will be overcome on long-term basis. We want to reach out to the marginalized communities, sections of the society, especially focusing to the indigenous community, women and youths, empower communities about environmental, wildlife, and biodiversity conservation through sustainable development. Our target is to replicate similar projects in other communities in the Chittagong Hill Tracts and serve as a platform for problem solution. So that's it from us. Thank you very much. I'm not taking so much time. So if you have any questions, I'm open to answer. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And once again, a reminder to the audience, if you have questions, please type them in chat or the Q&A box. And we shall use those questions in our conversations. But yeah, I don't see any till now, so please feel free to type your questions. Also, please, I think you can raise hands and we can also give you an option to talk. So feel free to raise your hands if you feel like you want to speak and ask your question by yourself. Thank you so much for that presentation. And Jial, I was curious. It's very interesting that you brought in the aspect of biodiversity loss and climate change. And while we see them as two sides of a coin, we don't often connect them as well as we should overall in very often in climate change conversations, biodiversity seems amiss and vice versa. Uh, can you give one very concrete example of maybe people's dependence on a tree species or animal species among the Mno community, if there is?
Yes, thank you for the question. Exactly. The thing is, we already developed a village community forest, engaging the local communities. You know, in Bandarban, on the hilly areas of Bangladesh, this is a very common practice. I mean, as water is a very challenge in the dry seasons. So what local communities do, they have a community forest in their surrounding villages. So what we did, we enhanced those community forests and implement more trees which actually hold water, so that this turbine or the stream flows from the mountains. It actually rises the water level, so that the problem of water scarcity gets a little bit of reduced. We are still getting data on how much we are having impact on this water collection. So hopefully it will be a great example regarding those community forests, because people are really getting excited and they already find the solutions. So we are continuously creating awareness regarding this community forest, and also the community, Mro community. They are nowadays getting a little bit of experience and a little bit of knowledge regarding those scientific data. So we are continuously creating awareness among those. Yes, thank you.
Thank you. I think Khalid from your team wants to say something. Khalid, I'll open the mic for you so that you can share your opinion as well. Khalid is also from the Korabam team.
Yeah. Hi, can you hear?
I think he is rejoining soon as a panelist.
Thank you. Okay, maybe while we wait for Khalid to join, there's a question in chat. There's a question in the Q&A box first, which I shall go to, and maybe someone can answer this question. How and maybe Rubina, since you've gone already, maybe you can answer this question. How did the funding support shape climate solutions in your respective projects, and also what was the value of this grant for your personal and career development?
Yes, thank you for that question. Since it was a small catalytic grant, but we were still able to implement in 2 different countries, and then 2 different mountainous countries, and then educate so many people and also document, and also in addition to that did comparative analysis. We have presented our outcome to the respective authorities, speak about that in so many platforms. Now, only yesterday I spoke about the findings of this project to several youths, and most of them were motivated, and they were motivated to work in mountainous region, because we have seen projects being implemented in other parts, but very less is being attracted to mountainous regions. So I think this was one of the initiatives to get started among youths to actually work in the most vulnerable and start protecting our peoples of the planet. So yes, it has definitely in terms of our personal development, it has definitely boosted our confidence. It has pushed us, like whatever we do, I think the grant has validated us and it has motivated us. It has strengthened our teamwork. We have been now able to work in 2 different countries simultaneously. So I cannot elaborate enough on how this grant has helped us. But this is the
Rubina.
brief version of it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for that. I think Khalid is back. And Khalid, if you want to share your point.
Hi, Shuchi. I have heard your question. If I'm not wrong, you asked about the dependence of the Moro community on any particular
Yes,
tree species
indeed.
or animal
Yeah.
species. I mean,
Yeah.
a very common example throughout the Chittagong Hill Tracts is that ethnic minority people are dependent on bamboo. So uh, if you go there, you'll see that there are lots of bamboo orchards, especially around the streams. So this is a very common example, and also they are heavily dependent upon various trees for medicational purpose for medicational purposes. In terms of animal species, actually, I mean, until very recently, they used to uh, follow the lifestyle of hunter-gatherers. So they used to, or actually still, they hunt to some extent. I mean, they hunt almost everything. For example, they hunt deer, even bear, various types of cats, seabirds, things like that. And one of the challenges to protect the biodiversity in that region is that it is very hard to change change their hunting habits, because it is kind of ingrained in their culture. So I mean, I think you cannot totally eliminate that, but you can reduce that to a certain level. I don't know whether that helps or not. I mean, yeah.
Yeah,
Is it
thank you. That's a
does it
helpful
answer?
answer. Yeah, that's very
Does it answer your question?
absolutely it does. Thank you very much. It does answer my question. Also, I think I'd like to take this opportunity and say subsistence hunting, subsistence
Subsistence hunting,
dependence.
yeah.
Yeah, dependence is a way of life, and while we've often kind of confused different types of hunting, we do need to recognize that there's a difference in that. There's a difference in poaching and subsistence hunting, and I think subsistence hunting is okay. um and
Mm,
that has often encouraged people's direct dependence, and therefore conservation as well of some species. So I do want to acknowledge that fact, and also acknowledging at the same time that our needs are changing, our desires are changing globally, and no communities are separate from that. So these are very complicated issues. They're not as simple as they seem.
yeah,
So
these are not
acknowledging all of
straightforward.
those things and yeah,
Yeah.
taking that very well. Thank you. There's one more question in chat for you on innovation in addressing water scarcity in this region.
Uh,
So
yeah,
either one of you, if you could take that question as well.
yes, yeah, I've seen the question, Mr. Bishwajit Roy. Thank you very much for your question. Yeah, let me answer this. Regarding innovation in water challenges, yes, we are developing a rainwater harvesting system I've already mentioned that before. This rainwater harvesting system is a unique one because we are actually building a tower which actually captures the humidity in the air and transform it into water. So yeah, so we are still in the process of implementing that, because when the community village will be developed, we will develop this tower and see the result. And hopefully this will impact a lot on the water scarcity. And actually on their traditional rainwater harvesting system, what traditional more people does is to collect rainwater and store them for a long time. So we are actually developing some more innovation with these technologies so that more water can be developed and more water can be stored. Yes, thank you.
Thank you so much. And I'm conscious of time. So let's move ahead. And we have Team Laila. We have Ruxar from Team Laila, and I think they have a video that they'd like to show. So
Yes,
Shall
hi.
I?
Yes, while Noshin plays the video, I'll just like to say thanks to the Catalytic Grant team and Suchi for this amazing opportunity, as well as Adiba. On behalf of my team, Jewel as well as Anika, they're all participating in the session, as well as the youth participants who have been part of our journey. They're all tuning in live right now with us. So thank you so much. And I guess we'll all see the video now. Thank you.
Bangladesh haors, once a symbol of beauty and biodiversity, are now struggling to survive in the face of climate change. Flash floods devastate the region every few years, destroying the sole source of income for majority of the people who live there. The Haor region's young community in particular are vulnerable to climate change, with limited access to information and resources. But the local youth-led adaptation project initiated under Catalytic Grant is changing that. A team of skilled practitioners with expertise in training, youth mobilization, research, and communication is working with young people in Tahirpur and Sunamganj Upazila. They are teaching them how to build a resilient community and aggregate local adaptation efforts. The young people working with Team Lila are raising awareness in their communities, collecting information and stories of how climate change is impacting the community. As change makers, they're sharing their stories and best practices on local, national, and global platforms, working with different youth networks. Thanks to the Lila project, the support from Catalytic Grant, CJRF, GRP, and ICAD, the Haor region is on the path to becoming more resilient, with local youth leading the way.
So as the credits roll, I'm just going to say that the Lila project was conceptualized. What we mean by Lila is local youth led adaptation, and the project was conceptualized on the basis of sorry, am I audible? Okay, so it was based on 3 pillars. So we based it on capacitate, activate, and amplify. Those were the 3 pillars that we based our project on. And I think we have been successful in the terms that when we initially selected the youths to participate in our project, they had very limited knowledge. They had somewhat knowledge on climate change, but they didn't have as much, and how their community is being impacted by climate change or vulnerability, and what adaptation is. They didn't have that much knowledge. But when we went there and then we talked to them and gave them the tools and the knowledge, they knew what we were talking about. They understood from their context, and they themselves identified what the impact was and what the vulnerability they are facing, and what adaptation solution as in their community are actually taking place. So from their perspective, I think what Lila team did, or what we initially conceptualized our project as well, we initially wanted to address the 8 principles of locally led adaptation. But given the resources, I think we were successful in addressing at least the 3 principles. So we tried to address principle 2, that was for structural inequality, and this is where we addressed the local youths of Tahirpur and Sunamganj, who are very vulnerable to floods. And in terms of principle 4, where we enhance local competency, we tried to enhance their knowledge, as I said, on impact, vulnerability, and local adaptation that's already being taking place in their community. And the 5th principle is where we try to address their enhancing their climate change knowledge and how they can amplify their voice. And this is where we gave them one-on-one training as well as mentoring sessions, so that when they collected the information from their community, they were able to collect photo stories as well as write blogs and articles. So we are in the process of the data that they have already collected. We are screening them and making them to knowledge products that can be shared as products from the Lila initiative that is owned by them and written by them. So that's where our Lila project is and has been, and this is thanks to Catalytic grant. I'll take any questions that you might have. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It's great to hear about your work, Rukhsar, and I guess working with young people is critical. Rukhsar, I wanted to ask you a question. There's some recent debate between the idea of locally led adaptation versus local adaptation, right? And the key critical aspect being led. How do you, what are your thoughts on leadership and on fostering youth leadership in this process? And you've been doing great work on that. So if you could shed some light on your journey in fostering leadership, fostering young people to become leaders, future leaders.
Yes.
That
So definitely in terms of fostering leadership, what I would say that of the 7 youths that we have capacitated or mobilized, they were, even before we went there to their community or like pick them up for capacitating them, they were actually directly working with their community with flood response. The flood that happened in June in Sunamganj, the big flood that happened, you also saw in the video, they were actually doing flood response, and they went door to door providing dry food and water, but they were not as much equipped with the knowledge that, okay, this is why this is happening. They knew that climate change was happening, but they didn't know the science of it. So we went there and made them understand this, as well as we also made them understand what adaptation is and where their community is adapting. Like they did before, this is something called Macha Poddhutiti Chash. It's Bangla, but this is like you in a raised plinth, you do farming, like agriculture. So when we told them this is the history of it, why we are doing this, they understood from the context of what's the scientific reason behind this. So definitely that is locally led, the adaptation practice that they are doing, this sack cultivation or the farming in the raised higher grounds. So when we connected those, they were able to pick up where their community understood from the situation, this is something that they have to do. So in terms of our intervention, where I see that we came in and maybe like supported our youth, was that when we came back from our intervention with them, they all said that what we initially thought that we knew, we came to know more. We didn't expect that we will be learning this much from you. So I think from our end, we were able to facilitate that knowledge for them to connect what they already knew. So I think this is where we probably facilitated them. The initiatives were led by them. We were just the connector to the initiatives that took place. Hopefully, I was able to answer your question, Suchi. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. I think very critical keywords are facilitators, connectors, and the role we play, and the humbleness with which you're saying they were able to know more about what they already knew, I think is very, very valuable, I think, and very refreshing to hear. It doesn't always happen that way. So thank you so much for sharing that experience. Next, I think I'll move into the next team, and then we'll come back and I'll probably ask a few questions to the group if we have time. Next, we have community change makers from Zimbabwe, and we have Cinderella. Hi, Cinderella. Welcome. And if you could share some details. Noshin, do we have a poster or a presentation?
No.
Okay, thank you. So Cinderella, if you could, it's just a question answer between us, and if you could share some light and some of your experiences of this Catalytic grants project that you've been working on. We can't hear you, so maybe you check your speaker, right?
Can you hear me now?
Yes. Perfect.
Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Cinderella Ndlovu. I'll be presenting the insights from our project. Community Change Makers is our team name, and I'm from Zimbabwe. So our project was centered on indigenous knowledge systems being a means of locally led adaptation. So just a bit of context about Zimbabwe and the area that we chose to work in. Zimbabwe is a country that is highly affected by climate change, and this is largely to do because of our setup whereby one of our major economic pillars is agriculture, and the majority of our agriculture is rain-fed. And because of the negative impact of climate change, you find that agriculture has been negatively affected because of the erratic rainfall patterns and the reduced rainfall patterns overall. So our project was centered on a community that is located in Umzingwane district, which is in the Matabeleland South region of the country. So we particularly chose that area because it already is a dry area and it has been significantly affected by recurring droughts and prolonged dry spells. So in our project, we sought to understand and further explore the means in which farming communities, particularly smallholder farmers in the district, are still able to continue with their agricultural activities despite the challenges that are brought about by climate change. And the project revealed to us that smallholder farmers have a challenge when it comes to accessing climate services. Sometimes they get the information about seasonal projections when it's already too late for them to make informed decisions on their agricultural activities. And sometimes they usually get agricultural inputs from donor communities, agricultural inputs that are not necessarily good for their changing climate and their dry climate. So we found out that communities, smallholder farmers who are in need of this information, the climate services that we're talking about, are also using indigenous knowledge systems whereby they're also looking at particular signs in the ecosystem, such as the blooming of flowers of particular tree species or particular birds, to help them inform their agricultural activities by predicting the onset of the rainfall season and the likes. So the Catalytic grant really helped us a lot in terms of also building a database of all this indigenous knowledge system, because you find that most of the times indigenous knowledge systems is not documented, rather it is passed on from one generation to the next by word of mouth. And this is valuable information that could potentially be lost if it is not documented. And secondly, as an observation from my team and I, we find that a lot of the times as climate change practitioners, we tend to suggest solutions to communities that we feel like need help in terms of dealing with climate change, and we usually neglect what they already know or what is already working for them. So our project also brought to light some of the locally led actions that communities are already doing as far as indigenous knowledge systems are concerned as well. And then we also looked at the possibilities of integrating indigenous knowledge systems with meteorological data from the climate services, where we want to be able to also have to bridge that gap between the scientific knowledge that comes from weather stations and meteorological services and the indigenous knowledge systems that people already know, such that we are able to build a cooperative between the two and not necessarily valuing one over the other. Because some of the farmers that we talked to also highlighted the fact that the climate services from weather stations is usually sometimes distributed by smartphones, and some of the smallholder farmers are poor and cannot afford smartphones, and some of them reside in very remote areas where they can't even access radio signals to listen to weather reports via the radio. So it was a really interesting project, and our plans for the future also include something that we've already started working on, which is part of influencing policy, to look at the existing climate policies and probe and try to facilitate the inclusion of indigenous knowledge system in as far as climate adaptation and resilience building is concerned. So we hope to, after finalizing our report, we hope to share with relevant authorities and stakeholders, just to ensure that everyone also gets an understanding of the indigenous knowledge systems that our communities are still using to this effect. And then we also we have built the database, and we're going to share the report. And then the other thing that we are also looking forward to is if there is availability of more funds, to also be able to cover more of the rural districts, which will select based again on the extent of climate vulnerability or the extent of food insecurity within those districts, and then be able to also add on to the current database that we are also working on. And we hopefully will be able to keep indigenous knowledge systems alive by providing this documentation that has not been done before. Thank you.
Thank you. That's really inspiring. I'm always touched by efforts to document indigenous knowledge systems, and I think where my ears pricked were when you started talking about the links that you're trying to bridge between local knowledge or indigenous knowledge and meteorological data systems. So if you could shed some light around how you're doing that, how you're ensuring that indigenous knowledge systems are mainstreamed in weather data, in climate change projections, etc., in your country. If you could shed some light on that, be brilliant.
Okay, I think I can give an example of wetlands. Wetlands being an important ecosystem if we're talking about the issue to do with water in times of dry dry seasons. You find that the local community has very distinct knowledge with regards to where the wetland is and its behavior compared to maybe a scientific body that might visit that area once or twice. So I think it's important that there be collaboration between the community and the services provided by meteorological data, such that at the end of the day, each of these different knowledge systems it provides some sort of help to the rural smallholder farmers instead of providing conflict. Again, the issue that was raised by some of the farmers was the issue of ecosystem decline of how some of these indigenous knowledge systems are based on maybe the blooming of a particular tree species. But if there is ecosystem decline, it means that farmers will not be able to spot the sign from that tree if people were to cut that particular species and cause a decline in that species. So that then goes to show that in as much as indigenous knowledge systems is also important, there is also need to also make reference to meteorological services to sort of complement what the community already knows and what they have already been using.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. And I shall probably ask you one more question. You also mentioned radio, and is there, I mean, I was just curious, are you thinking of linking that radio system, the fact that farmers already listen to radio, with these data sets, with these combinations of data sets, or are you planning to create early warning systems? What's your plan like with you mentioned radio, and I just wanted to understand that better.
Okay, yeah. So when I was mentioning radio, I was also highlighting the fact that some of these communities are so remote that farmers cannot even access a radio signal so that they can be able to listen to early warning news or things of that nature. So I think one of the things that my team and I would also want to also bring to light is the fact that you also need to perhaps enhance the distribution and the dissemination of climate information, especially using indigenous languages such that it's also understandable to farmers that are in the remotest of areas. And then also, again, the issue of radio, I think it's also crucial that with the partnerships that we are building, we hope to maybe have a consistent radio program to farmers that can actually access radio so that we can also be able to continue to build the awareness around climate change adaptation, and also build the awareness of people out there about the local-led adaptation, and in this instance, indigenous knowledge, because it's something that's not familiar, especially amongst the young people, and it's a gap that we are also trying to bridge to ensure that we do not lose all this information with the older generation, and we also incorporate young people as well.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. That's lovely to hear. And yeah, sorry, I didn't catch that bit around people not being able to access radio as well. Very valuable point around how you can ensure reaching out to the most remote areas. There's one more question in chat which is slightly similar to what I had asked, and maybe you can choose to either answer it here or you can answer it in chat. It's basically again, Bishwajit, thank you, Bishwajit, for asking questions. You've actually made my work easier here by asking these questions. He's asking how is early warning, early action implemented? Are there any early warning systems being implemented, and what are the procedures and processes that are followed for that? And are these specific is what he's asking as well.
Okay, yeah. In as far as being the message is being locally specific, they are not. That's one of the challenges that are highlighted, that you find that for instance, in Umzingwane district, a rural district, you find that maybe there is one weather station that is located tens of kilometers away, and we know that rainfall varies spatially, and at the end of the day, that data does not necessarily translate to being accurate data on that micro village level because of how far away that weather station is. So I think it also goes to show that even the climate services that you might want to rely on are not as strong, and both the climate services in terms of the meteorological data and indigenous knowledge systems, they both need supporting in terms of strengthening to ensure that our farmers at a local level, at village level, get to have as much information that will be able to assist them in making informed agricultural activities.
very, very valuable. Thank you. And these issues of large scale data gaps are fairly critical. And maybe one thing, Cinderella, I have a follow-up question to you. Owing to these large scale data gaps and the fact that you don't have location specific or spatially varied early warning systems, or even data sets, weather data sets, etc. I wonder if you have thought of using the decisions that communities want to make as their starting point, and linking those with the practices that they make, and then taking them forward to the weather stations. Is that something, is that the kind of link that you're trying to draw, or is that something that you've considered? So basically what I'm trying to say is flipping the issue of lack of data to actually ensuring that decisions come before the data comes in. Have you thought about that, or is that something that you would want to consider?
Okay, so in the community that we're working in the district that we're working in, there's already an established relationship with agricultural extension officers that hold meetings with farmers regularly. But in terms of what kind of information a particular farmer decides to listen to, or the kind of information that they feel is valuable to them, we got a bit of mixed feelings, because some farmers were really commending the data from weather stations, saying how it's really working wonders for them, whilst others were really complaining how this data is not accurate. They're being told that it's going to rain and it doesn't rain, so they are not really comfortable with that particular data. So I think there is more room in terms of establishing a stronger bond between the two, such that we get some level of trust between smallholder farmers and agricultural extension services, to ensure that at the end of the day, people can still be able to continue with their livelihoods in agriculture and build some sort of resilience and adaptation in spite of the changes that are being brought about by climate change. Because smallholder farmers, they depend on agriculture largely, and most of them are poor. They can't afford irrigation systems. Like some of the commercial farmers will resort to irrigation if it's in times of dry spells. So I think as a team, we also noted how it's important to bridge that gap and build stronger bonds between the two groups.
Thank you. I think that's a great response and very valuable points. I used to work on droughts before this. I completely relate to the issues that you're talking about, Cinderella, and very valuable points that you're making there. I think there's Roderick Moyo who wants to speak. Roderick, I'll unmute you, and you can ask your question or share whatever you want to.
Thank you so much. I hope you can hear me. Confirm?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes.
No, thank you so much, Cinderella, for the work that you are doing. Maybe my addition could be, I think, the other role that indigenous knowledge, because as you have said, that the challenge is information dissemination and data gaps, and also that communities who are located in remote areas maybe is trying to work with some institutions that are already placed there in those communities. I understand there are agricultural extension services that could be disseminating information and maybe assisting communities in those areas. Maybe the challenge could be the number of those officers in these different communities, but those can play a role to disseminate and assist communities in early warning, especially the information, because the challenge that I've observed with Zimbabwe, as coming from Zimbabwe, is that early warnings, we receive early warnings, but the actions now to the actions when you have received that there is a drought or the information with regards to flooding, the actions, that could be the problem that I've observed. So maybe trying to really work and have strong ties with those available community level institutions, the extension officers or even the village heads and all those guys. I'm sure it can assist in bridging the information gap. Thank you.
Thanks, Roderick. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, my name is, sorry, I'm Roderick Moyo, and I've worked with Cindy. I'm from Zimbabwe, but currently I'm in the UK. I'm doing a master's in environment development and policy.
Thank you. And if I get your question correctly, you were basically asking if the agriculture extension workers should be trained as well. Was that your question?
Yeah, I was, yes. It was more of a comment that
Right.
those
Yeah.
available institutions, maybe if Cindy can try to find a way to partner with them, because
Yeah.
they are closer to communities.
Right. Cinderella, if you would like to respond to that, please feel free to go ahead and respond to that.
Yeah, I think that's very true in terms of how there is really need for more action after receiving early warning systems, an early warning alert. I think I can give an example of Cyclone Freddy, which is said to be one of the longest cyclones. We received early warnings here in Zimbabwe that is going to affect particular regions, but it did not come at the expected time that people were told that is going to come, and we saw a lot of ridiculing of from the public of how, oh, you say the cyclone is coming, but it's all sunshine and there's nothing. But at the end of the day, if you watch news, a lot of people have lost their lives, a lot of people, damaged infrastructure costing millions across Malawi, across Mozambique. And I think it's very sad to find how even after the issuing of an early warning alert, we still find maybe the reaction of the public is not something that we would expect in such a serious situation. So I think Roderick is right to say that you also need to rope in local communities and local institutions that are already working with people on the ground, such that if there is an early warning alert, people get to hear it from institutions that they're already working with, instead of it coming from someone that maybe might seem foreign to them. And at the end of the day, they might even reject what that person is saying. So it's really important to have local communities actively participating, even in early warning systems and even in the design of some of the solutions on local adaptation as well.
Thank you so much. And thank you, Roderick, for that comment, and Cinderella for those responses. I think it's time now to move on to the next group. We have Team Resilient, and we have Afsana from Team Resilient with us. I think they have a poster. Thanks, Nosheen. Afsana, if you could take us through your poster, talk us through it, and tell us a little more about your work.
Thank you, Suchi. Hello, everyone. My name is Afsana Afrin Esha. I'm representing Team Resilient with Mauba Hassan Lima and Hasbul Hassan Hasib. So we are really grateful to be here and be sharing our journey and experiences that we've gained. So through the Seed Fund, we had the opportunity to do a scoping field visit in the coastal region. So the Bangladesh coastal region is sort of highly populated, and a lot of research has been going on. So what we figured is that there are some communities, some religious ethnic minority communities that were sort of excluded from this whole academia and even all the development interventions that have been going on. So our project focused on this particular group of people and sort of wanted to understand their whole history, what made them vulnerable, what made them landless, and how they were sort of coping and adapting to these socially created and environmentally created vulnerabilities. So one of the quotes that I really like is, as given in the poster, is that minority communities are highly vulnerable because of their natural resource dependent livelihoods, but they also have a better chance of adapting to climate change with their wealth of knowledge, inbuilt social networks, simple settlements, limited fixation on material accumulation, and ownership and flexible livelihood arrangements. So this was basically a motivation to conduct our research with these group of people, where we had a very thorough field research with them. So we identified all the stakeholders that were associated with this group of people, and like had a one-to-one discussion about what made them vulnerable, what were their coping strategies, what was the livelihood options available for them. And lastly, we wanted to disseminate our findings through a research journal article. And the Catalytic grant will also help us do that in the future. And yeah, so our findings basically were that these group of people, they're excluded from a lot of things. So for example, in Bangladesh, we don't consider ethnic or religious minority as a big issue as we do in maybe in India or Nepal, but they were excluded and they were highly suffering. So the group of people, we call them Christian communities. So they were diverts, Christian diverts. So they were socially marginalized, socially excluded from the whole pack there. So that's just an initial form of marginalization that happened right at the start. And they were also living outside the embankments. So they were highly prone to flooding and the impacts of cyclones. So what they did was they tried to adapt to this through diversifying their livelihood strategies. But what happened even in that stage was they were given less payment because of their initial religious or ethnic minority status. So even if they worked like the same job as a normal community member, they would be paid in half. So we have found out different issues such as this, and we also looked at the aspect of policies, how these policies were sort of affecting this group of people. So the group of people really live close to the Sundarban forest, so they're highly dependent, and all the policies that are made in the forest affect them. So a lot of policies, such as the dolphin or protection policies or excavation policies, these really affect them. So when they're not allowed to fish during a certain period of time, and that time they're highly suffering. And these sort of policies also induce or force them to uh, more conflict prone decisions. For example, they have to use poison for fishing because they have no other option. And how these policies sort of interplay and create more forms of vulnerabilities. And I think there will be more better portrayed in our research. And yeah, we also found a huge number of barriers that are also related to climate change. So our main aim was to portray that this is not always only climate change, but a lot of development interventions, a lot of policies were also affecting them. For example, there's a ban on fishing and dolphin, that's great. But on the right, on the opposite of where they're living in the Mongla port, huge number of development interventions are going on. There are factories, you name it, all sort of factories, and they're also affecting the dolphin just as much. the little communities are by fishing. So this is a huge contradiction that you can see in the coastal communities, especially in Bangladesh, which is a developing country. And we have identified these really tiny but impactful challenges through our research. And in future, we aim to identify more factors and do a more thorough study integrating migration, their mental health, their physical health, education, impacts on children, and we want to do a more large scale study focusing on these groups of people. So yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Afsana. Great work. And attention to detail is key to such work. And I think you brought out some really interesting predicaments around economic growth and the push for economic growth in countries, especially in South Asia and other parts of the majority world, and how that affects the most marginalized even further. So thanks for that. I was particularly struck by this last point you made around policies around fishing and the development interventions that happen anyway. I am wondering if you have any plans of maybe putting this out in disseminating this to a larger audience, more than research, beyond research, and if you're thinking of taking this into a realm of I don't want to say advocacy, but I really want to encourage you towards that, but don't want to say it because there are questions around policy advocacy. But yeah, how would you want to take that to other audiences is the question that I want to ask.
So currently we're only focusing on a research journal article, but we have also written in newspapers, and we're also focusing on producing more of those newspaper articles. And maybe, yeah, this is a conversation that we would like to take forward. We don't have that sort of expertise in advocacy realm yet, but yeah, we would love to collaborate and take that forward.
Thank you. No, that's extremely useful and very important to bridge those gaps. And there might be somebody in this group and in this room who might be interested in collaborating with you in the future as well on advocacy. So that's also why we are having these sessions and why we are connecting as a group. Great. So yeah, so let's continue talking about these issues and let's continue collaborating on this. Before I move on to the next part, I wanted to use the next 3 to 4 minutes to, so if you all could have your videos on, the panelists who spoke, Cinderella, Ruxar, Rubina, Jiaul, if you all could have your videos up. And I wanted you to share, and maybe we could start with you, Afsana. We could start with Afsana, then go to Cinderella, Ruxar, Jiaul, and Rubina. So backwards. And if you could give me one word takeaways from your Catalytic grants experience, that would be great.
Just one word?
Just one word. Difficult one, but just one word.
I would just say growing.
Thank you. Cinderella?
I would say networking.
Great. Ruxar?
Friendship.
Lovely. Jiaul? Okay, we'll come back to him. Rubina?
Yeah, I would say empowering.
Great, lovely words, all lovely words. Jiaul, we're missing you. If you can hear us.
Sorry, I had some technical issues. Now it's okay?
Yeah, it's great. If you could give us one word for your experience with the Catalytic grants.
Thank you. It's really thank you, because we need this opportunity for this platform, and really thank you very much.
Lovely. Thank you. And thank you very much for joining us. And with that, I think we're close to time. So I'll thank you all for the lovely work that you're doing and the lovely conversations we've had. Thank you also to the audience for asking great questions. And I want to hand over now to Adiba, who'll share this journey, who's kind of been the steward of this journey. She's been shepherding everybody across, including all of us who are at the back end and the larger team who's supporting her. She's been shepherding everyone. So Adiba, over to you to tell us a little more about this journey and the uh, the shared value that we have created through this exercise.
Hi everyone. I hope everyone can hear me well. So yes, thank you, Suchi. I was listening all of your answers, all of your discussions back then, and I was really wondering that we are actually doing something with this small amount grant in making a small difference actually. And I would like to start with an interesting question that I have come across at COP27 when we had a session under this program, that one stranger was passing by to the Resilience Hub pavilion and were asking me that, are you giving this $5,000 for a session or for a project or a proposal writing? So I was laughing and I was telling him that, yes, we are providing this 5,000 grant for implementing an idea in the field, in the ground. And he was quite shocked, like how it is possible, because 5,000 is nothing. 5,000 is needed to implement an idea. It is not possible. So I have showed him actually the interesting works that you guys are doing in the field level, in research level, everywhere. So with that, I would like to start my very brief presentation. Like, as I can see, the audiences, like everyone is interested, like where we stand, as we have completed, as Dr. Hawk has mentioned, that making grant was nothing, was a very new avenue for us. We haven't done this before, and we started actually doing this from 2021. And all of the pictures that you can see in my presentation are part of this grant, are actually shared by the grantees that they have implemented in the field level. So without further ado, let me start with where we actually stand in the Catalytic grant program. So we have launched our first grant, which we used to call small grant program, funded by CJRF at the Gobeshona Global Conference back in 2021. And then actually GRP was also interested to fund grant. So they have launched another phase that was launched in CBA 15. And in that phase, we were able to give fund to 3 teams. And then the third phase was launched at the Gobeshona Global Conference last year. The grantees who have actually presented this year was part of the last year Gobeshona Conference cohort. And last year, we again tried to actually launch another phase funded by GRP. That was at COP27, which we were able to actually launch 4 grants this year. They will be implementing their ideas this year. So after that, I'd like to share our objective in a very brief, that we try to have incentive and opportunities for cross-disciplinary capacity development and ideation. And we try to actually have strengthening global community of practice on locally led adaptation and resilience. Then we try to strengthen Southern leadership in the community of practice. And lastly, strengthening South-South and South-North knowledge exchange and collaboration and action on adaptation and resilience through our work. And who are actually the recipients of this grant? The recipients are mostly youths who are working in the field level, or grassroots climate activists are also part of this grant, are also in the alumni network. And then we have grassroots and women-led organization in different part of the world. They're working with us. We have indigenous groups, like some indigenous people from Bangladesh actually are working with us from this grant. And then we also keep the floor open for researchers and academicians to have a different variety in terms of knowledge sharing, in terms of implementing the activities in the field. So we try to have researchers and academicians also part of the grant. And then we also welcome the local level practitioners who are working at the local level with different organizations, but they want to actually implement small ideas. They are also part of this grant. And then the interesting thing is we call this grant, as Cinderella mentioned, that it is a in one word, this grant helped her to do networking. Yes, this is a grant where we try to have a network of networks. Initially, for last 2 years, I will say, we tried to have a strong network in, we built a strong network in the South Asia and African region. We have grantees from Nepal, Bhutan, from South Asia, Philippines, Vietnam, Singapore, Bangladesh, and India. And then we have grantees from African region, as you can see in my slide, the countries. And this year, actually, we tried to expand our network. So we have reached out to Latin American countries. We have grantees, currently the grantees who will be implementing their ideas in the field level this year will be from Haiti, Colombia, Spain, UK, Germany. They will be implementing their ideas. So we call this network a network of networks. I will explain the network of networks word later. As through this grant, we're able to actually give them a platform to actually become a leader through writing an article or writing a vlog, and share that article in Bangladesh-based newspaper, daily news, that is Climate Tribune, that ICAD handles. And then we have Resilience Coalition at GRP. They were also able to actually share their vlogs in the Resilience Coalition. They were able to be part of that coalition, actually. And then GRP actually arranges a special storytelling workshop through their comms team, so that the grantees can share their story in a structured way. GRP tried to have a training and and gives guidance to the team, so the story is well formed in a manner. So, and as I mentioned earlier, the network of networks word. So we also try to actually encourage the grantees to apply for some other activities. Like in ICAD, we have some other partnership with GRP, that is CRAL, Climate Resilient Academy Leadership Program, where we try to actually capacitate young leaders. Last year, it was more on adaptation. This year, we have more focused on loss and damage, as all of you know that loss and damage is now an emerging topic. And then we have a VFL, Voices from the Frontline, collaboration with GRP, where we try to give some incentive to the grantees to write a vlog, to share their stories. And then we have a huge collaboration with UNDP Bangkok. GRP and ICAD both have a collaboration where the grantees, actually, it is also a grant making program, but the grant is quite a little bit different, and the scale of the grant is quite higher than small grant. So some of the grantees actually have applied for this year cohort, and they are waiting for the final results. So this is how actually they are getting into different networks, getting into different, trying to be part of different platforms. They are actually attending different conferences. Like some of them have actually applied for CBS sessions this year. So these are the avenues or opportunities that they actually get from this Catalytic grant program. And this is a picture actually that I found very interesting, thought to share with all of you, that we try to hold a session under this program at COP27, where you can see some of them, like Cinderella is there, Ruxar is there, and the GRP team from GRP, Amil is there. So we had a session on experience sharing. The grantees have shared their experience with the with the grant, and we had a mixed cohort actually of grantees. Like some of them are from 2021 Gobeshona cohort, some of them are CBA phase cohort, and this year's cohort. So we tried to have a mixture of experiences in one table. So this is the event picture from COP27. And now this is the picture shared by Cinderella. Like everyone, I will stop here, but before stopping the presentation, I would really love to have some way forward from the grant. Like if you have any feedback or anything to share, like the grantees, the attendees who are in the who have participated in this session can share something or share a feedback for the grant. I would love to take those points. And yes, the last points that I'd like to cover is some of the people actually want to know that if we are opening any phase or any cohort of the grant soon, we are planning, we are pitching ideas, we are trying to find some donors actually to continue this program, but hopefully we will open in partnership with GRP a new phase of the grant. I would like to request those who are interested to be part of this team to keep your eyes on our social media page, GRP social media page, ECAT social media page, to have an idea on the opening of the Catalytic grant. So I'll stop here and hand over the mic to Suchi. Suchi, over to you.
Great. Thank you very much, Adiba. Thank you for that presentation. Feels really good to look back and see where we started and where we are. So always lovely to reflect and have these points of moments to reflect. With that, we have recorded closing message from Heather McRae, who is the head of CJRF, which is the Climate Justice Resilience Fund. So we shall hear what Heather has to say. She's recorded her message because she's in the US. If you could share that message, please. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Heather McRae, and I'm the director of the Climate Justice Resilience Fund. I'm sorry I can't be with you in real time today, but CJRF is one of the core partners in the Catalytic Grant Program, along with GRP and ECAD. And we are really proud that this program is continuing and that there's a new cohort of grant applicants that have just been selected. Congratulations to the new grant recipients and to those who've been completing projects and sharing knowledge here today. I trust this session's been a fruitful opportunity to share experience and build collaboration. I look forward to seeing further development of the work and the partnerships and new knowledge as we move along this year. I would love to see all of this feed into the CBA program that is getting prepared for May. I wanted to share just a few thoughts on what makes the Catalytic Grant Program powerful and important. First of all, this is an opportunity to link research and action. And when we're talking about climate change, it's really important to have a short loop between learning and implementation. And this is the kind of program that makes that possible. Second, this is a program where people work in partnership and collaboration. And I really just believe that collaboration is where creativity comes from. There's so many opportunities to try new things, to learn from each other, and to create initiatives that are more than the sum of their parts. Third, I really appreciate how ECAD has set up this work with a cohort of grant recipients, and that they've really invested in sessions like this one that enable shared learning and exchange. And I just think that's been one of the best features of this initiative. The grants themselves are what I consider small but mighty. You know, when you have something that's small, it can move quickly, it can take risks, it can be creative. And that's what a lot of the grant recipients from this Catalytic Grant Program have done. But of course, not everything stays small, and not everything should stay small. And I think of these initiatives as being kind of like sparks. Some of them will just, you know, be a small spark, light up the sky very briefly. but then others can grow, can produce a large, bright, hot fire that really builds light and knowledge and energy. And that's what I hope will happen with some of these projects. As you do your exchange, as you do your work, think about how you can grow those fires and really scale these small, mighty initiatives. Congratulations again to everyone. Many thanks to ECAD for their leadership, and have a great night, everyone. Bye.
Thank you, and thanks, Heather, for those inspirational messages. Yes, indeed, it was lovely to hear Heather talk about the grant and the work. And with that, I think we are also at time. So it has been lovely to have you here, lovely to hear all of you speak. And we look forward to keeping in touch with you. So please feel free to continue keeping in touch, continue sharing your updates from your work. Those of you who just completed the Catalytic grants cohort, yeah, please remain connected through the alumni networks, and we shall facilitate that process of your transition into the alumni network. And we hope to see you at some point, whether at COP or CBA or at any other forums that we might be able to come face to face. Thank you very much. Thank you to all the audience who's been lovely and patient in listening to us and asking lovely questions, very thought-provoking questions. We really appreciate each and every one of you to be a part of this journey. Thank you.
Suchi, we will take a screenshot. So I'd like to request everyone who are in the panelists to turn on their camera so that we can take a screenshot. I'd like to ask the Zoom team if it's taken. Habib Bhai, can you confirm?
Yes.
Yes, thank you. Thank you everyone for joining. Thank you.
Thank you. See you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.